Introducing a new video game design called Boo, I'm a Ghost. This game has been in development for the last 4 months at Full Sail University. This is the final project for our portfolio pieces. Here are the students that created the game. I'm Joe Chafin. I worked on level design, user interface, tutorial development, testing, and script writing.
This is Todd Christensen, game art, level design, script and asset development, testing, and build specialist.
This is Greg Martin. My main responsibilities included level design, mechanics development, script creation, matinee specialist, and in-game HUD creator.
Boo, I'm a Ghost is a 2D puzzle platformer that has a vast age group through some market research done. For younger people, it would be more difficult to play, but with the help of the tutorial, it will be more accomplishable. We believe the age range would be 8 years of age and up. This game implements a multitude of player abilities that is usable through the Wisp ability to fly and to possess other characters to use those characters' abilities. Werewolf has the ability to sprint and wall jump, as the Magus has the ability to pick up crates and the ability to gravity jump. These abilities all help you complete all the puzzles in the game. One way the game stands out is that the game is sped up due to the timer that is used instead of life. To extend the timer, you will have to possess another character or get to the safe zone.
This game has changed a couple times throughout the development due to problems we have encountered along the way. This game was initially supposed to use a combat system as a way to possess other characters, but we encountered enough problems getting just the possession mechanic alone to work. That's why our game ended up being based on a timer rather than a health bar. We had to make a sacrifice due to time constraints. Also, the game originally had a fourth character. This character, though, ended up not making the cut. It just didn't feel right having 4 characters with only 1 mechanic each, when we could have 3 characters feel a bit more dynamic by giving each of them multiple usable mechanics. In development, we all worked on different skills and abilities while helping each other whenever available. Here's a personal example that each of us have encountered through development.
A major instance I have encountered was implementing the menu system using Canvas inside of UDK. It caused a lot of errors throughout the entire build. After a few months of testing and fixing, I have finally perfected the menu system to where it operated smoothly and the way we wanted it to operate.
From day 1 of research and marketing class, I knew we would need to figure out at least the most basic scripts necessary to lay a solid foundation for our test ground. This proved to be a bit more work than anticipated, as we weren't sure on some things. We all knew we would need multiple control schemes for the different pawn types, but we didn't know if this involved multiple player controller classes or just cramming a ton of data into a single script. Then came the very steep learning curve, with little time left, about scripting states. This is how we would get all of our pawns to work together in one script. What seemed to be the most frustrating, though, was when we would be so close to completion only to realize that those last few lines of code just wouldn't work with our current layout. There had to be at least a dozen rewrites of our core scripts, and though we thought it would get easier the next time, it never was.
The biggest obstacle in this project was definitely scripting. We all knew that it was necessary to have some pretty unique and intensive scripting in order to make this design work. From the beginning, I set out to research and ask as many questions as possible to best implement our desired mechanics and really understand what is happening in script. A specific example of this was the crate carry behavior. When first implemented, this mechanic was extremely buggy since it was colliding and subsequently jittering erratically with all world objects and was hard to control so far from the player's body. After some quick fixes to make it playable for the short term, I knew that the best fix would be to make the crate phase and not collide with world objects while being carried. After a few days on my own, I enlisted some tech support from Chris, and we were able to set the collision to touch all, as the crate is picked up during the trace, if check, and reset it to block all as the crate is released during the release handle function. The problem I had when attempting on my own was trying to set the collision inside of the crate class rather than the Magus pawn where the functions are stored to interact with the crate.
Throughout the process of perfecting the Canvas menu system, I have used a lot of Kismet and script to build the menu system. This has helped me develop more skill to be a well-rounded designer. Being able to use Canvas has been a real help because there is lack of usage of Canvas, which will allow me to help others in the future if they encounter problems. I can do this through the usage of forums or tutorials I will create in the future. So I will be a great help to the UDK forums in the future.
I think one of the most useful skills I've become more familiar with was just the simple setup of basic scripts. The game info class, the player controller, the pawn class, getting the camera set up, and also programming in states. That knowledge right there is, in my opinion, the most bare bones yet most necessary components of designing anything in UDK. One of my favorite tasks, though, was figuring out how to make a fractured static mesh, like our breakable walls, look like they were just blasted by like a pound of C4. It took quite a bit of trial and error, some experimenting, and a pooling of YouTube knowledge, but I finally got it through the use of a radial blast. Those things are rad. And even though it's probably a simple task for anyone who's done it before, creating the Wisp in 3DS was a small accomplishment for me, as I had never created a skeletal mesh before, let alone imported one into UDK. And that also goes for the trial and error, just sitting there all night, online on Skype, trying to get our Magus to hover jump, our Wolf to sprint, our Wisp to fly. You really felt a huge sigh of relief every time one of those tiny pieces came together.
I've learned to trust in my teammates to finish their work, and the importance of good work habits such as starting early in the week to set yourself up for success. This can give additional time to handle unforeseen issues as well as being able to assist teammates as the deadline nears, rather than everyone pushing their own goals. I've also learned a great deal about scripting in Unreal, how to problem solve and research additional options to get the same result. For example, Chris and I were trying to implement a custom Kismet function to better control where crates respawn when destroyed. We ended up looking into existent Kismet actions, such as Actor Factory, in order to see how best to declare and pass in the information we needed, via a path node, and borrowed heavily from it to create the actual custom Kismet action we used. One of the most important steps in development has been the time spent testing the game. Many issues were found and fixed due to diligent and comprehensive testing of functionality and mechanics as they were implemented in the game. As stated earlier, we had fairly widespread issues when carrying the crate, ranging from full-on blockers to completely cosmetic or rarer issues. As the behavior was tweaked and changed, several new issues would occur, but once we decided to make the crates phase when carried, we spent less time testing and reproducing the irrelevant issues and began looking at measures to prevent bugs we expected to occur with the new behavior. Safety measures were put in place and allowed us to focus on areas where we were uncertain and polish this mechanic until it looked, felt, and played as smoothly as possible. We created this game as a portfolio piece and to demonstrate and develop unique skills along the way in order to improve our value as developers and increase our chances of getting design jobs in the industry.
The overall group experience has been very important to my development as a game designer. Seeing that being in groups is a very important role in the video game industry, and I have learned through working on this project to help better me as a designer overall. Being able to communicate properly with another is a skill I have also improved throughout the entire project. Reliability is also another thing that is important for game creation, and is important to all of us as designers. Being able to count on another person is very important being a developer, considering most games are built by multiple people as a group for an overall goal in the end. All this knowledge will help me better my personal future as I move on as a game designer.
There were definitely a few skills I felt improved throughout the project. During 1-month group projects, it's fairly easy to agree on something just for the sake of getting it over with. When it's a 4-month-long endeavor, however, With this one project being the most complex part of the game design degree, there is a lot of compromise. Projects like these are no place for the extremely stubborn. There is a ton of patience involved, a lot of time is sacrificed, a lot of personal ideas end up vanishing, but that's how it goes. There's a sense of accomplishment that comes with it though. When you realize every answer isn't found in open source code or on Google, when you have that moment and just figure something out. Also, no matter how good your team is, if you can't keep your files organized, it's not going to go very well. Communication and the ability to maintain availability throughout the stint of the entire project can be the one factor that will make or break your team.
In addition to what I learned about the tools, I believe the most valuable experience I gained during this project are interpersonal communication and time management skills. Even in a small group, it is crucial to communicate with each other and keep up to date with where people are having difficulty and succeeding in order to make quick adjustments and ensure the most is made of the time you have for each deadline. The best weeks we had, and consequently the best progress we made during this project, occurred when all team members were in frequent, multiple times daily communication when we began on Tuesday or even Monday, working towards completing the next week's goals.
After having learned all this knowledge, here is an example of our game. Enjoy Boo I'm a Ghost, the Magus level. We appreciate you watching our video about our new game that we have developed. If you have any questions, just place a comment on the YouTube panel. We thank you again. Have a good one.